Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Shovel Knight. In the last part we did a lot of optional stuff over in the optional areas. Hey Shovel Knight, I just received a book of mysterious songs from a faraway land. Anyway, I've added them to the song list. So, what can a humble bard do for you today? So this adds the 5 Battletoads pieces, the 2 God of War pieces should you be playing the PlayStation version. And honestly, I'm just glad the songs are available for you to listen to at any point in time. Because yeah, last part we did all the Battletoads and the God of War crossover stuff. With that said though, that's the end of the cool optional content. Now we're back onto the main game and we're heading after our next knight, the Clockwork Tower, the lair of Tinker Knight. Before we get into his own bio, let's talk about the Toad gear itself. As we showed off last part, holding up will make you do a pose, and there's a special one just for being in the mysterious area. And double tapping left or right will make you dash, which is cool and all. Additionally, your 1-2-3 combo becomes the punch combo from Battletoads, and doing your shovel drop and holding down extends the size of the shovel to ridiculous proportions. Additionally, running towards a target and then attacking will make you do the ram horn attack from Battletoads. And these deal twice the normal damage, including the boot attack, and it's really cool. It's like the charge handle attack. I should note, whenever the shovel is big like that, as you may have noticed, it'll dig through any dirt in one shot, even the gray stuff, so that's pretty cool. But if you do bounce on an enemy, or a meal plate, or a light orb, should you be in the Hall of Champions, you still do bounce like normal. This is really cool, but I have to admit, the 1-2-3 combo is iffy in how it works here with combo potential compared to Kratos' Chaos Armor in the PlayStation version, where you're just doing a 1-2-3 combo. You can only do the 1-2-3 combo when you're near enemies in this. I should note as well, I believe the Ram Horn attack does the additional ability of the shovel drop in the Chaos Armor. Well, it'll just unearth any money mounds just by dropping onto them. With that said, this is cool. But I died there for a reason, so I could go back and turn into the Dynamo Mail because I just prefer it overall. I believe in both versions, you can just change your armor by heading back to the armorer in the armor outpost. But I do believe you can also just take the Toad gear off by talking to the Battletoad who gave it to you, should you be playing one of those versions. With that said, let's talk about Tinker Knight. Some knights love rushing into the glory of battle, ready to crush their skull of the enemies. Tinker Knight is not one of those knights. He does his fighting before the battle begins, laboring on diabolical devices that do his work for him. The wrench is the tool of his trade, doubling as an engineering device and a melee weapon. Some are quick to dismiss Tinker Knight's lethality, usually just before falling victim to one of his mechanical monstrosities. And fittingly enough, a lot of his stage is themed around mechanics. You got conveyor belts all over the place because of that. Some pros, he's got a gregarious demeanor and he's a hard worker. Some cons, he's got rough hands, he works long hours, and he's always out to prove himself. And as for the gameplay concepts they had in mind for him should he have gotten a DLC campaign, he would have thrown his wrenches in an arc pattern similarly to the throwing anchor. His jump would have had a fixed trajectory, but it would have had a double jump to compensate. And his big gimmick would have been his workbench, where you could have spent money mid-level to construct some limited use items, sort of like the rush items from Mega Man 8. There was a motorcycle that increased his mobility, a drill which would propel him forward and break blocks with an extra melee attack, and an armor that would have acted as extra HP points for him. And I should note, actually, I forgot to mention this during his stage, but Mole Knight's gameplay ideas was that he was going to be very fast while climbing and digging, but generally slow otherwise. He would use fireball projectiles as his main long-range attack, but he could have created and controlled dirt out of nowhere, similarly to Gutsman and Mega Man Powered Up. He could warp through dig piles in any given stage, kind of like a teleporter mid-stage. And he could toss friendly moles out of dirt piles into the air, and when they would land, they would create their own dig pile, sort of like make your own warp points. And well, if you combine those together, you got a nice teleport idea. Most of these gameplay concepts, I feel, could have worked for the knights that didn't get their campaigns made. But I do admit, I think we did get potentially the 3 most unique campaigns out of the ones that we could have voted for. So I am glad with the ones we ended up getting. This stage, though, is arguably one of the more dangerous ones just because the amount of mechanical engineering going on here leads to a lot of potential crushing deaths or spikes. We also have a bit of an odd weapon this time around, the mobile gear. This relic is weird because it's more of a mobility option than anything else. You throw it on the ground, you stand on it, and it starts moving in the direction you originally threw it in. It will glide over any instant kill projectile and instant kill hazards like spikes. I actually forget if it works on lava. If it reaches the edge of a platform, it'll do a little jump, so you don't need to worry about falling into a bottomless pit. And it'll collect any items it itself touches. And it can also damage enemies decently enough, and it's pretty fast. With that said, in terms of a use for a relic at least, probably my least favorite in the game, because I only use it in that room there and in the boss fight, because this is the one relic that has a very special effect in the actual boss fight. More on that later. And now we got moving missiles. They're essentially Medusa heads from Castlevania that you can bounce off of and admittedly use as an extra platform, but annoying all the same. Probably the most unique mechanic this stage has, I don't think we've seen it yet, is that there are platforms that are kind of alternating blue and yellow. They're meant to be rotating. Actually, here they are right now. Whenever you jump into them, you will clip through them because they're supposed to be a rotating rod. And while you stand on it, you slowly move back down to the bottom of the hitbox because it's supposed to be spinning you off of it. Ow, my face! With that said, the speed at which you fall through these platforms isn't too high, so as long as you keep doing minor short hops, you're fine, really. Oh, wait, no, there's actually one other use of the mobile gear. It's getting this particular music note. This stage, honestly, to me, was always one of the more forgettable. I will say this, it has one of the few times the game goes outright auto-scroller. I think I mentioned earlier, there's not many times this game does that. I know I mentioned one there definitely is later on. But this stage technically has one in that it has one in the same way New Super Mario Bros. Wii does. More on that in a few minutes. This is, I think, the first stage I managed to complete checkpoint list by destroying all the checkpoints along the way. With that said, it's just because I think it's one of the easier stages. And I did that without doing the full playthrough of it. Now, this is what I meant by New Super Mario Bros. Wii auto-scroller. This platform is moving and does not care where you are. You can get crushed by it, and you can just get easily left behind. And now you may have noticed those treasure bags weren't in the same location as the last one. That's because I died off screen here more than once. This is the place that I probably died the most in on my first playthrough. And you know what made the mobile gear really good? If it could pierce defenses of these knights. I feel that could have made it much more useful, because then you could have just jet fired all the way through this stage. I don't know why I'm using jet fire as a noun, as a verb like that. That's just the name of a transformer. I don't know why. This stage always felt, I guess the word I'm looking for is underwhelming. And admittedly, in a multiple choice stage game like this in Mega Man games, there's always going to be those few stages that feel undercooked and underutilized compared to the others, but this one just feels like it's this game's version of that. Because, like, I love Mega Man 6, but I seldom look forward to going through, like, Centaur Man stage, for instance, because, yeah, that's technically the water level, but what it does with the water, while interesting, they never do anything beyond that, like, initial room or two. And because of that, it just feels like it falls flat. Even the games I love, I will admit, have problems. From memory, this is also one of the shorter stages in the game, too, so that might also be why. Like, even the space between the checkpoints doesn't feel like it's as long as some of the other stages. I don't know, there's just, this stage over was never too memorable to me. Good music, though, just not my favorite music. We've still yet to get to that. Also, I'm only now realizing that there's actually clockwork gears on the bottom of the moving platforms in this stage. That's a nice detail. Given that's, you know, kind of the whole aesthetic of the stage. In fact, if I'm recalling the stage layout, we're already just about at the boss fight. Yeah, there's this auto-scroller. Oh boy, 3 auto-scrolling segments in the main game. Man, my memory's skimping on me. But then we're at the end, and this isn't even that dangerous. In fact, it's very easy to get ahead of the screen here. If you just... first off, time where the platforms are carefully in regards to your jumps, but just stay towards the top half. It's not exactly dangerous, but I would say it's safer to stay towards the middle. just so you have an idea of what's coming, so you can either avoid other dangers or just not get impatient and maybe, I guess, get blindsided by an enemy. Though I might be thinking again of, like, King of Cards, because King of Cards, due to its shorter level design, like to do that kind of thing more often. And here we are at the end of the stage. And we have, like, this one-use lever, which I don't know why, but this feels like a missed opportunity. They could have used that mechanic a bit more here.
Ah! Did you make all that noise? I can't think straight! I have so much work to do!
Just work on letting me pass, little friend.
Oh, big words, Tin Man. I'll show you a thing or two.
Tinker Knight will walk left and right and throw his wrench at you, occasionally tripping, and that's all he does for memory. You can fight him, or you can run him down with the mobile gear to one-shot him. In fact, he can run into it to get one shot. But we're not done yet. This is one of the few bosses in the game that's multi-phase. There's Kratos in the Sony version, technically the Battletoads, and Tinker Knight in his Tinker Tank. This thing will stay mostly on the right side of the screen, but move slightly left and fire missiles out of the arm on the right that you're supposed to use as platforms to get onto the rotating drill and stand on its relative left shoulder. The shoulder is admittedly shooting projectiles out of it, but from there you can shovel drop onto the Tinker Knight's head to do damage, or just throw some Chaos Spheres from a good enough arc to do good damage at a time. The Tinker Tank is big, but don't let its size fool you. It's a very easy boss fight. It will occasionally charge left to make more projectiles fall from the ceiling, but this is nothing too difficult. I'd argue it's probably the easiest of the Order and No Quarter period, honestly, as long as you're good at managing that many projectiles. Mega Man's kind of trained me for that. I know some people might get overwhelmed with that and thus make this one of the harder bosses. I will say, not a bad stage for gold from my memory, though, because I think you can get a good couple thousand there. And you can actively revisit any stage in the game in order to get more money, in case you're running low. You can also do that to find any notes, or even practice the boss fights, because the boss fight will still be at the end of the stage after you've cleared it. Oh, hey, another optional boss fight. Let's take a look at that before we end off. There's no one here. Ooh, fancy. What magic is this? Power, honor, the traits of a respectable warrior. Sir, I don't believe we've met. We meet today on the field of battle. We have both defeated many knights and traveled far. Today, we fight. Stand aside! You and I have no reason to battle. Conflict is a reason unto itself, brave knight. Today, you will be tested. Are you ready? The Phantom Striker is the hardest and final wandering battle in the game. He'll block a lot of your shots and cause lightning to strike himself, in which case not only will he surround himself with electricity for a brief time, but also fire several pieces of electricity out into a 1-2-3 strike that gets bigger as it goes along. He can also summon electricity balls to slightly follow you around, but again, Chaos Sphere, even during his teleportation, can be really useful for avoiding any hazards. And notably, this fight will have different dialogue after defeating him if you take over half your health and damage. Your skills are as vast as I thought. I shall follow your journey from the shadows. Farewell, Shovel Knight. That's the dialogue you get for either not taking half your health and damage or healing, I believe. And you get more reward and gold for doing that. If you do heal or take over half health, you get much less money than that. It's a cool fight, but again, you don't need to do those fights.
Let's see here. Oh, you found the destroyer. I could hardly hear myself think over that cursed tank without those missiles going off.
Alright, now the one purchase I'm going to do before we end things off is I want to head back to the Armorer and buy another one of the armors. I believe there's only 2 left. Yes, I'm going to buy the Mail of Momentum, which I believe prevents you from getting knocked back when you get hit. It's useful, but at the same time, knockback saves me as often as it kills me in most games, so it's not useful to me. We are also going to get the Gilded Mail, which gives you a little shine effect and a different jump animation, but that's it. It's just a money sink. And with that, I believe we've purchased everything of note, really, outside of the final meal ticket we'll get for finishing this section of the game. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 9, we're heading after our next Order of No Quarter member. See you guys
Then,